Hello everyone, it's DuckFader07. Today we are playing a John CoCo. So this deck was once a very popular deck, fallen off due to some high tier strategies played at more modern lately. Especially creativity was very bad matchup for this deck. But the creativity has fallen off lately and a lot, and this deck also gained a new very powerful 2-drop, which makes creativity matchup better, but a lot of others matchup better that play Ragavan themselves, and because obviously we don't have 1 mana removals in this deck, so it used to be a bit worse against when playing on the draw against Ragavan, but now it's significantly better against that, but also against as I said, creativity and some other matchups too. Okay, so nothing much to say here except for the inclusion of Thoughtseize as another additional non-creature spell. I think Thoughtseize is well positioned right now, especially in a type of deck like this one, which uses very powerful singular spells like Lightning Elemental, Season Pyromancer, Bowmaster, Goyf, Company, Grist, all of them basically to put the pressure on the opponent early or even finish the game in the early turns. So that is it. On the sideboard we have some artifact enchantment hate, some graveyard hate, some land hate, and a couple of furies. Okay, that is it. Let's go to the gameplay and watch how the games go. I finished the league with a 5-0. I think, yeah, this is the first match. So let's check out that one and see how it goes, how it went. Okay, so playing first, I think this is pretty good hand. First, at turn 1, Ignoble Hierarch. If it lives, I'm in a pretty good position, but if it doesn't, still I'm playing first, so it is okay. Opponent just passes the turn, end of turn I go for the Blood Crypt, and now I have option to go for the Skelemental or Grist, but in this situation, opponent is keeping the open mana. We already know they're playing Lightning Bolt. It doesn't make any sense to play the Lightning Skelemental because they'll have open mana for removal and it won't do much. But they're not a blue deck as far as we know so far. So there's a high chance that Grist is going to resolve and do something. And that's exactly what happened. So next turn we can follow with the Thoughtseize into Skelemental, making sure they don't have a response to the Skelemental. And that happened, and they were tapped out, and it was much better to play Skelemental on this turn than it was on the previous one. Opponent had to discard 2 cards, and they were playing some Vadrok combo deck, if you know what Vadrok is. It also uses the Lord Drakis. There are 2 mutate creatures that together can create infinite loop, replaying this card, 3 mana, gaining 4 mana, and replaying all the time 1 other card from your graveyard. It's a very interesting combo, but not that good, so it wasn't. I had luck with my choice of opponent in game 1 and won this match easily. So had to mulligan this one, kept 6 cards with 1 land, but I was on a draw and I had Ignoble Hierarch, so I thought it was probably fine to try it. I was already winning in that first game. Opponent revealed the Fury and bolted my Ignoble Hierarch. Luckily, I got another land. It wasn't a red land I needed, but still, it was something. Opponent casted the Wadrock. So if they have double Wadrock and then they mutate one onto another, they're in a very good position. They have 2 Wadrock abilities, so they get to replay a lot of the spells from the graveyard for free. So luckily I had Totsis for the second Vadrak, and also got one mountain. At the moment, I was able to. I knew what is in my opponent's hand, so I played the Grist and used it to kill the Vadrak. Um, my opponent had a Fury in hand, and I really needed a land to cast the Skelemental and the game basically uh, discarding their Fury, but they untapped and get to play their Fury. I wasn't able to do anything about it. So I finally got my second red source with the Ragavan treasure and played Spyro, digging for other stuff. It was fine. My opponent, mutated Cub Warden onto the Fury. Now Fury was 3/5 lifelink double strike. And I got Lightning Elemental from the top to attack my opponent and discard the last remaining card in their hand. And I also replayed Tarmogoyf, which was large enough to trade with opponent's Cub Warden. So I was able to attack with Ragavan with 2 Exalted triggers, so they're not able to trade with their token. They also mutated the Lord Drakis, got the Bolt back. So again, I went for the Ragavan Dash to take the Bolt from their hand, and then unearthed the Grist from the graveyard to kill their mutated Lord Drakis. And I attack with the Spyro for 4 damage, pass the turn. In this situation, opponent didn't find a solution for all of this, and that was the game. Okay, so that was easy game 1. Let's check out the game 2. Okay, so in the game 2, I was playing second, but had a pretty good hand. 3 Orcish Bowmasters, that's really good. Against a lot of matchups. I think they were on creativity, not sure though. So I passed the turn, obviously looking to play the Bowmasters. Still not sure, still can't be sure of what deck is this, but seriously thinking about creativity at the moment. So in case their creativity, it's best to just play the hierarchy in this situation and pass the turn with the open Orcish Bowmasters. If they don't go for the creativity, you can play the Bowmasters to apply the pressure there. If they do, you have a kill for a token. So in this situation, I was able to play my second Bowmasters, ping the Renin 6 and attack it for lethal on Renin 6. Then I had option to go for to play Goif, hold the Bowmasters again. It was a good play, but I wanted to try to finish the game with maybe a couple of Skelementals. So I tried to go for the Collected Company. Unfortunately, opponent had a Spell Pierce, which was pretty good for them. And yeah, they used their Fable, so I pinged Shaman token. So in case they went for creativity on 2 here, I will be able to kill one of those creatures, but not both. Luckily they didn't have it, so I was able to kill the Shaman token, untap, play the Unearth on the Bowmasters, and yeah, get the third Bowmasters into play, then play the Spiral from my hand to draw 2 more cards. Pretty good situation for me. Okay, so let's check out the game 2. In the game 2, I had Bowmasters again. I had the second one too. And the Spyro and the Skelemental plus the Unearth. Think this is pretty decent. I draw the swamp for the turn, so I decide to go for the swamp to avoid the shocking in unnecessary. They just pass the turn, so I go for the Bowmasters there, and in response to Bowmasters, they play the Prismari and shuffle the Emrakul to their deck. I got another red source, so I find the Stomping Ground, and I decide to go for the Skelemental. I have Unearth in hand, so in case they take this damage, they would be on low on life, and I would maybe have a chance to finish things off with Unearth on the next turn. And I play my second Bowmasters. But yeah, I wasn't able to recover from this, so that was game over. Let's check out the third one. Okay, so last game in this match 2, I had Totsis in turn 1 to get rid of their creativity. Their hand was pretty bad, just a couple of Hallowed Moonlights. This is good against my company and against Unearth. So I just cycled my Unearth on turn 2. Unfortunately, didn't find the land I was looking for. But it was okay, I still had planned to play the Bowmasters on turn 2 and turn 3 and then hopefully find that third land. So I went for it. They had a couple of moonlights in hand, which means when they play it, I will get the ping and I will put a counter on my creature. I found a land here, which was definitely good news. I found a land. Was able to play one of my spells now. They decided to prevent me from making spiral tokens by playing the Hallowed Moonlight. I decided to go for discard the 2 Grists because I had the Unearth to bring them back for 1 mana, which is pretty good. Opponent again played the Archon, but I had a Grist to get rid of the Archon, and I also put Goyf on the field to continue pressuring the opponent. They didn't have the third creativity, I already discarded one, and they played the second one, so this was already 2 creativities. So they didn't have a third one at this moment. I was able to get more creatures on the field and continue attacking with the Goyf. And now I have a large board. Even if my opponent goes for Archon, I still have a chance to win this game. They stayed back. I played all of my spells in response, try to make them tap out and get some counters on my Orc Army token. So I wasn't able to use my Grist, but I was able to attack with everything, and they needed additional removals to live through all of this. They had, I was amazed, they had both Leyline Binding and the Bolt, so they were able to survive on 2 life, but didn't have a solution to survive next turn, so they concede, and that was the game. Okay, let's check out game 3. Okay, in the game 3, again a double land, Ragavan on 1, Orcish Bowmasters on 2, then a Spyro plus the Unearth. I think this is pretty good hand. So I start with the Ragavan, opponent kills it. Again, I pass the turn with a couple of Bowmasters. This is already proving to be pretty decent play in a lot of the games, especially when you're playing against a Fable. If they draw 2 with Fable, you immediately get to kill the Shaman token, put some counters on your creatures. So I decided to use my opponent being tapped out to play the Skelemental. They didn't have a Solitude to get rid of it. Even if they do, they still like lose 2 cards to do that. So again, it is good for me. They have only 2 cards now. They didn't use the Fable. So I decide to go for the Unearth on Skelemental. Opponent has the Binding this time, but it is fine because opponent now has only 2 cards in hand. So I'm in a pretty good situation. I have a lot of good cards in my hand. There's a Grist, there is a Spyro, and the Unearth. I draw the Unearth, and that's when I decide to go for the Spyro immediately and bring back Grist. I kill the Kiki-Jiki and continue attacking my opponent. I had a decent board right now, and the opponent was basically in top deck mode, so I was pretty favored. Opponent decides to attack with the Goblin Shaman. So we trade for creatures there. They play the Binding on my Grist. That was the last card in their hand. And they top deck Lightning Skelemental for a win. And my opponent concedes. That was it. Okay, so let's check out the next game. Against a 4-color Omelette. This match turned out to be pretty easy in those 2 games. So I had 2 unearths. Unfortunately, if one of these unearths would be Totsis, this would be a great hand. This way it was just okayish. Nothing special, but playable. So I had, again, Bowmasters on turn 2, which is one of the most often plays, and just playing the Goyf on turn 2 is, in a lot of situations like this game, a lot worse. So Goyf is much better after you do the Skelemental thing or you play the Totsis. So opponent finds a Fury and goes to exile their graveyard to be able to kill both Bookmasters and Goyf with their pitched Fury. I then play Grist to kill their Endurance. And at this point they were on 2 cards in hand, but they find the Ring, and which quickly makes up for all the cards in their deck. I play a double Unearth here, bringing back Goyf and the Bowmasters, plusing my Grist, but opponent has a second Fury. I think they only play 2. So they had a second Fury and a Solitude hardcast to kill my Goyf. But still, I was again in a decent position. Again, reanimated Goyf and the Bowmasters. I wanted to hit the ring with the Bowmasters, but they were forced to jump the Goyf here, and they had 2 collected companies and finally find the mana. So when opponent went for to tap the ring, I played my collected company. I knew they had Counterspell in their hand, so I just wanted to use it so I can resolve the collected company on my turn. Then opponent played Omelette, of course, to gain some life, draw a bunch of cards with 1 ring. Yeah, as I said, I was able to cast the company on my turn, which was my plan. And I find the Lightning Skelemental to finish the game. They didn't have a solution for it. no open mana, so that sealed the game. That was it. Okay, we can now go to the next game. Match number 4. Okay, in the match number 4, I played first. It was a slower hand with only 3 drops, but I think when you're playing a blind matchup, when you're playing into the blind, you only see Giganta. I think this is okay if you're on the play. If you're on the draw, then you get to mulligan this. It's too slow, but on the play it's double. Unfortunately, my draws didn't go well. Opponent started attacking me with the Wild Nakatal. My draws were 2 lands, which definitely wasn't what I was looking for. Right now, I was able to didn't want to cast this Elemental into their open mana, so I decided to go for the Grist, but they had a reprieve. So on their turn, they just went for the Ragavan, putting me on 10 life, which means they potentially can have a kill next turn if they have a Tribal Flames and the Ragavan Dash. I go for Lightning Elemental to also just put them in the lethal range for the next turn. Also had a blocker for the Ragavan. But they had a Bolt and a Swing for 5, putting me on 5 life. And they didn't have Flames, they just passed the turn. So I didn't have much choice here. My only draws entire game were just lands, so I didn't have option to double spell here, and they find a removal for my Skelemental, so that was the game. Okay, so let's check out the games 2 and 3. I decided to keep a one-lander because I had both Ragavan and the Hierarch and the Unearthed. So I was able to function decently with 2 mana. Opponent plays Ragavan, they didn't have a Bolt, so I decided to pitch cast a Fury, get rid of Ragavan, connect to get 2 mana and play both of my Hierarchs. Now I had double Exalted, but opponent had Binding for my Ragavan now, but it was okay because I was able to play the Grist. And yeah, the Bowmasters is just so good. I love it so much, and yeah, get rid of the Ragavan and use my Grist to kill the Nishova Brawler. Opponent played a Kavu. Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't use my Grist before casting the CoCo. That was a mistake. Should have used it, then cast the CoCo. Should have expected to find another Grist, but still, it was a good situation for me. I used Grist to kill the Scion, and now they didn't have a trample on the Kavu, so I was able to jump it. Opponent goes for a draw this card, but that triggers my 2 Bowmaster's abilities. And yeah, they decided to concede, so that was the game. Let's check out the last game against Domain Zoo. Two lands, 2 Ragavans, 2 Furies, a Spyro. I think this is pretty decent, so I decide to keep. Opponent starts with Ragavan, and I go for Ragavan 2. I have a spare one if we trade, and the opponent did trade, so I had multiple options here. I decided to go for the dash, so if by any chance I connect here, then I can try to go for the collected company next turn. Opponent plays a Scion of Jacob. I was hoping for them to play the Scion or the 4/4 Kavu. They played Scion, which was perfect for my Fury, and I was able to get the Kavu from top of their deck. They played Kavu from their hand. So they didn't have a blue mana open, and I decided to use this situation to play the collected company. And now I got the Bowmaster's token, so I can sack I can sack the Bowmaster token to Grist ability to kill the territorial Kavu and continue attacking, and my opponent decides it's enough and they concede here, so that was the game. Okay, so we only have one game left. It is the trophy game. Again, a one-lander, definitely not ideal. Definitely not ideal, but here it is. For the first time at this league, I actually connected. Uh, saw my opponent's hand and played the Tarmogoyf. Tarmogoyf is pretty good after you play the Totsis. They had a double Doughty, they had a couple of lands, Blood Moon and the Spyro. I decided to get rid of one of the Spyros and played a double Bowmaster to kill their first Doughty. So now I have the double Bowmasters and they go for the Spyro, but they lose 4 or I kill everything they have. When they realize that, they concede the game. So that was very, very quick game. Basically turn 3 win against Blue-Red Scam. Let's check out the second game. Just the 3 drops, but I had a Totsis. Totsis was basically reason for me to keep the slower hand. But they had their Totsis. Still, this can be fine if they have a slower hand too. So I just play my lands, focus on trying to find a couple of basics if possible. I went for the swamp and the cliffs and pass the turn. I think my opponent probably just decided out Blood Moons. I decided to go for the Grist here, plus the Grist to get the insect token. I didn't really mind that much them getting the treasure and playing the Fury, because I had my own Fury to kill their Fury. So Unearth was a pretty good top deck here. That's why I decide again to go for the Spyro, discard the Grist, unearth the Grist, kill the Fury, and still have a Fury in my hand for the next turn if needed. If I find my 5th land, of course. Opponent goes Ragavan Dash, I trade with both of their creatures. Still have a Grist in my hand, I still have a Ragavan to kill both of their creatures. I didn't unfortunately find my land, but I decided to pitch cast the Fury and I unearthed the Spyro and I ended up the turn with 2 cards in my hand and those 2 cards were Goif and company, so which puts me in such a great position. And yeah, my opponent can't do much here, so they concede. And that's it. So deck felt really, really good against some of the best decks currently in the format, like 4-color Omnat and the Blue-Red Scam. I basically won like they were nothing. They didn't have ideal hands, but yeah, so they don't always have a turn 1 scam, of course. So these games are really quite often games like this one. Okay, so also 4-color Omnat match was also pretty easy. Creativity was fine, much better than it was before the Bowmasters. So that's it. I hope you liked the video. Hope you liked the gameplay. Another 5-0 video. I'm on such an excellent run at the moment. Everything working out great. All the brews. I really love this one. I had the similar build on my channel in the past, but Bowmasters is such a significant upgrade and making the deck really take another level. And yeah, that's it. So now we have Bowmasters and the Grist, both CoCo targets doing some interaction which can really be relevant. but I also decided to add 4 Tutsis to this build, which is kind of unusual. But I decided I needed some extra interaction for this deck to work, and Tutsi seemed like a good choice at the moment. It is the very efficient right now because people are playing a lot of powerful singular spells like Omnat, pitch elementals like Fury, like Solitude, stuff like that. I also have strong singular spells of my own, like Company, Spyro, Skelemental, Grist, and others to fight against Blue Red Scam. It's important to have such a good top decks. And also, I think the deck is very well functioning, and at the moment, and all the sideboard pieces I think are good and optimized for the current metagame. If anything changes, there are some other sideboard options available for this deck. So that's it. Okay, for today. And once again, hope you enjoyed the video, and click like, click subscribe, comment in the video if you want, and goodbye.